Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Welcome. Great to have you with us.
A lovely day here. It's sunny outside today instead of being windy and cold. Just sunny and cold.
Yeah, no, Jason's in the Bahamas right now.
Mm-hmm. Is that where his prison is that you're talking about so often?
It's a non-extradition country.
That makes sense.
I was kidding. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard me kidding with Mike Rose. We were talking about scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I prefer non-extradition states and countries.
Oh, boy. So where would you like to start today? Because I have some topics I do want to bring up.
Well, I do want to start with Bill Hillgrove.
Yeah.
Because Bill Hillgrove announced today that he will continue with Pitt football and Pitt basketball, but after 30 seasons, he is going to step aside as the play-by-play voice of Steeler football. He called some of the greatest moments in Steeler history and is, without question, a credit to this profession with his knowledge, preparation, enthusiasm, his ability to call the biggest moments, and Steeler fans love him, adore him, and there are great reasons why, because he has given them great reasons to feel the way they do about him.
Mm-hmm.
So with the greatest respect, thank you, Bill Hillgrove, for all the great moments on the radio you provided for the Steelers, but we'll continue to do that for Pitt football and basketball. Now, the question's going to be, whether he wants to do any Syracuse games, but that's. Oh, sorry, that's your team?
That is my team. I'm actually going up there tomorrow. Fun fact.
You're going to the Carrier Dome tomorrow.
I'm not going into the Dome. There is no game in the Dome, I believe, this weekend, basketball-wise, but I will be in Syracuse this weekend for a nice event.
Right.
So.
Now, there's this one now. The Night Commission, which I usually pretty much do not
despise.
No, but it's like, okay, it's a think tank. Most think tanks are, okay, they're think tanks. I don't usually pay too much attention to think tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Of any kind.
Yes. Not even the ones trying to figure out what to get you for your birthday? Not those think tanks?
No.
Got
it's
it.
Pretty much an individual choice, and as usual, I get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because that's about as much thought that is usually put into it.
Yes.
Said FBS football's exclusive and unrestricted revenue distribution plan. The Night Commission made a recommendation FBS football should be governed by a new entity separate from the NCAA and funded by CFP revenue.
Mm-hmm.
What? Just let it go to the CFP. Let them divvy it up and let the conference commissioners do whatever. I mean, seriously, cut out the middleman. Okay, that's what this is. Let's put a middleman in it. No middleman. You'd be amazed how cutting out the middleman.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, Steve.
Really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And they also want some money going toward insurance. They would allow more than $60 million in NCAA revenue distribution currently tied to counting FBS football factors in the distribution formula to be reallocated. Supposedly, they want some of that reallocated to legal fees.
To legal fees to help continue to lose legal battles? Is that what you're referring to?
Does anybody in 'Indianapolis understand antitrust law? Anybody? That would have been my question for Donald Remy when he was at Bucknell.
Yeah.
Do you, any of you guys have? Okay, there's a section in there called antitrust law. Have any of you ever read it?
I don't believe so.
Because they get crushed. I mean, in this Tennessee case, they're going to get crushed in that one too. So it's like, in fact, in the Tennessee case, the NIL case, the NCAA, I believe, is a 22-point underdog. So
22 points. Is that what? 22 million? 22 billion?
Just 22-point underdog.
22-point underdog.
Yeah.
Well, that's happening. That's fun and lovely.
Right. So now let's get to actually what fans care about.
Yes.
Because, I mean, that's just like the Night Commission, which just, this is our suggestion. Like, you know, it's like putting in a suggestion box. Thanks.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
And I got a few things I want to bring up and ask you about.
Okay, so let's get to the optimism over the 14-team playoff.
Yes.
Okay. So we go for 4. We're not increasing. Now we're 12. And at 26, let's go to 14. Okay.
What would 14 mean is the first question.
Well, first of all, it'd be the top 2 seeds would get buys. There's also another part to this that isn't really discussed, but all the contracts with the New Year's Six run out after 2 seasons.
Okay.
They would like to then make them all at-large situations.
Which would be interesting.
Well, no, make them all in other words, make the New Year's Six part of it, but they're all at-large.
Anyone can get in.
That way, well, no, you can just seed and put people wherever needed. It would also mean that you can give the number 1 overall seed its choice of which one to play in. So say LSU is the number 1 seed. They would want to play in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
If USC is the number 1 seed, they're the one to play in the Rose Bowl. Georgia would want to play in the Peach Bowl.
You can kind of pick a home game you want.
Right. And this is how the NCAA men's basketball tournament operates. If you're the number 1 overall seed, you get to pick the region you're in.
Gonzaga always goes to Spokane. That's how it's always worked.
All right. If you're the number 1 overall seed.
Okay. Yeah, but like when they've been there, the last decade, it's been Gonzaga's just always in Spokane, always kind of exists there. They operate there.
But if
UConn's been in MSG, they've been in Providence, they've been in and around Connecticut.
Yeah, but like Kansas, for example, it depends on where you want to be, who it is at a particular time, and where the region is. I'm not talking about the opening round. I'm talking about the region you're in when you get to the Sweet 16 Elite 8 stage.
Because that's when it actually
That's
matters.
where you pick what you want at the time. That's what you're looking to do. So, in other words, if it happens to be the Sprint Center in Kansas City, Kansas is like going, hey, all right, let's get on a bus. This will be great. So that's what they're looking to do. In fact, you know what? At some point, I'll get an email out to Gary Stoken at the Peach Bowl, so you get Gary's reaction to this. Because this year they're hosting a quarterfinal on New Year's Day, and they're hosting the championship game on January 20th. Now, remember, the championship game is an independent bid, right? So it's not like the Peach Bowl's hosting it, but it turns out the Peach Bowl committee is the one that made the bid, and they got it for January 20th. So they'll get 2 this year. So the model they're looking at right now is this. Okay? The Big Ten would get 3 automatic qualifiers. The SEC would get 3 automatic qualifiers. The ACC would get 2. The Big 12 would get 2. The Group of 5 would get 1. The at-large pool would then be 3, unless it's Notre Dame, and then the at-large pool is 2. Notre Dame cannot, get a bye. Now, that was agreed to by everybody ahead of time. And remember, then athletic director Jack Swarbrick was a part of the committee that got it to 12. He understood that. Now, they can host a game.
Yes.
But they can't get the bye part, which is the opening round. So they can't be, at this moment, a 1 through 4 seed, or in this case, can't be a 1 or 2 seed. You can't get a bye.
Makes sense.
All right. Now, there are other models being discussed. Well, I'm telling you, here's a model that's probably being discussed, where the SEC and the Big Ten look at it and go, no, 4-4 1, 1, 1, and then 3 at large, and 2 at large if it's Notre Dame. I'm telling you, you're going to be sitting in the room, and look, they're the power brokers. They have the schools you want to see. You're telling me there are 2 Big 12 teams you want to see? Well, the 2 Big 12 teams you want to see are actually Texas and Oklahoma, and they're going to the SEC. Done. Okay? Who do I want? You're going to tell me there are 2 Big 12 teams? 2? Really? Which 2? Okay? What? Clemson has a mediocre year, but still ends up second place to Florida State, and you got to take Clemson? Wrong. No. That's not what America wants. Now, Florida State and Clemson are 2 of the 18. Remember, they're 2 of the 18.
The top 18 teams that get the most revenue and most viewership.
They get 50% of the TV ratings. They get 50% of the TV viewership. 18 schools comprise 50% of the TV viewership. Clemson and Florida State are 2 of them. There are none in the Big 12. 0. Okay, this is about this to me is about what people want to see. And what happens if you're sitting there and you have the top 14 teams and the SEC and Big 12 second place teams are 18 and 22? No. Au contraire, mon frere. No. And that's something that I think they're going to discuss. They're discussing right now a 3-3, 2-2-1 plus 3 model. They're not locked into that model. They say there's a ways to go. Well, okay. First of all, the SEC and the Big Ten have the TV viewership. 15 of those 18, 8 are from the SEC, 7 are from the Big Ten. Yes, Penn State is one of them. So they've got the TV viewership part. They also have the strength of schedule part. When you're adding Texas and Oklahoma to your conference, when you're adding USC, Oregon, Washington, and then UCLA to your conference, okay, and you added Stanford, Cal, and SMU, au contraire, mon frere, that doesn't go. You're the Big 12. You added Colorado. I don't care who's coaching him. You won 4 games. Colorado, Arizona State, Utah.
You don't want to see them, Steve? Why not?
Well, it's not a question of seeing them. I'm talking about strength of schedule here. That doesn't change your strength of schedule. It doesn't change, okay? Utah's the best of those 4. Utah's been the best. Utah's darn good.
They've been good.
No, they've been darn good for a while. But that's who you added. So you added Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado, and subtracted Texas and Oklahoma. So your additions have been Houston, Cincinnati, UCF, BYU, Utah, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado. You lost Texas and Oklahoma. Where are you better off? Where?
Nowhere.
Okay. You're the ACC. You added Stanford, Cal, and SMU. Your product is actually diminished because you added them. It's diminished. And if I've heard once, I've heard 50 times, Stanford wins all these national championships. Here's one for you. That's great, but in the big picture, nobody cares. Okay, does anybody know who won the sailing or beach volleyball championships last year? Nobody. There are people on the Stanford campus that don't know. Okay? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Look at all the titles they win. Look at the Learfield. Look, you get Learfield Cup points for winning. Whatever. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's great. These people all put in a lot of work, a lot of time, everything they do to win this whole thing. But I'm talking about the reality of it is these are football decisions. Stanford in football has not been good for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? David Shaw did a great job, best he could, after Jim Harbaugh, and Jim had done a good job to getting them to a certain point. But they're not the same anymore. Okay? Cal, you have to be kidding me. SMU, no.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There is nobody buying tickets to at Kenan Stadium. It's in Chapel Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness, I can't believe it. Cal's in town. How lucky are we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Are they going to the Smith Center saying, look at this. I think I may buy a couple tickets. I mean, okay, SMU basketball's in town.
Mm-hmm.
No. But, hey, by the way, UCLA basketball's coming to the Jordan Center.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the first time ever. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? November, Washington football at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, October, was it October 5th?
Mm-hmm.
It was 12th.
I think it's 12.
October 12th, Coliseum, USC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
What I would like to say real quick.
These are must-see games.
They are must-see games. I want to defend SMU real quick and say I have a special place in my heart for them because in 2012, the first ever thing I did journalistically was interviewing the head coach June Jones and Garrett Gilbert for my middle school interview class, and I have the video or the audio recorded. It was beautifully done, and I interviewed them. The other people I was meant to interview, which I sadly was not able to do due to time zone difference, was a then rookie quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, Mr. Russell Wilson. Sadly, didn't get to happen. I did get a signed Russell Wilson card, which is somewhere in my house somewhere. But I have a special place in my heart for SMU.
Well, he's not the coach anymore.
He's not the coach anymore, but hey, it's a special place in my heart.
But by the way, it's great that they did it.
It's great. It was awesome.
It's not just good they did. It's great.
They gave a random middle school kid from Connecticut a chance to interview and talk to their coach and their quarterback, and I did so in the middle of their practice. Like they had like,
what did you go?
Practice ended.
Nathan Hill Middle School or something.
Dodd Middle School in Cheshire, Connecticut.
Thomas Dodd.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, he was censured in the Senate. Don't
possibly.
Let that bother you.
I don't know. But I did the interview at like 10 a.m. my time. It was after their morning practice, and I interviewed him, and it was awesome. It was the coolest thing in the world, and I didn't realize it until this year. And then Garrett Gilbert became a good quarterback in the NFL, and I sent a message saying, hey, I interviewed you in my middle school, and he remembered it and was like, yeah, I remember talking to you on the phone. You were nervous, but it was fun talking to like a middle schooler. And I was like, dang.
Well, no, they would remember a middle schooler interviewing them. Absolutely, because it's so different than anything else that they're doing.
Yeah.
They would remember that.
And I asked him.
He's not being BSing you when he says that.
It was one of those things like I had remembered it, and it was very fun. And I have the interview saved somewhere. It is still close to me, near and dear to my heart. So I will always defend SMU as far as I can because of the joy and pride they gave to a very small child.
Yeah, nobody wants to see him. All right, so
yes. but someone who people do want to see, if I may change it up a little bit, is
because I'm going to get to the money in a minute.
We'll get to the money of it, but real fast. Kalen Clark, 2 triple doubles for Iowa in the span of 2 days. By the way,
okay.
Sanford got one. Kalen Clark got one. She is now 200 points shy of the all-time NCAA scoring record, which is held by Pearl Moore. She's 200 points or so.
And that's she's playing the Division II.
Yeah, AIAW.
AIAW, but Division II, I think, right?
At Francis Marion, yes.
Yeah.
So it's 3884 is the number. She is about 200-ish points away. And if you're her and you go on a big run in the tournament, she could conceively crack that number.
Yeah, Pete Maravich is next. And I think she's, 19 points away?
She is 19 points shy of Maravich. And then she's about 230 away after that from 200-ish away from Pearl Moore.
I was listening to somebody this morning. I'll deviate here for a moment. I wasn't even going to talk about Caitlin Clark today. is like only so much you can. After a while, like, okay, I got it. She's good. Right? I mean, because it's getting to be
same thing.
It's getting to be overkill at some point. But they've talked about how her presence is a financial bonanza in the women's tournament. Okay, where she's playing is where she's not. No. Okay. So the first 2 rounds are going to be, no matter what, their top 4 seed are going to be in Iowa City, so it'll be sold out. Okay. But are they going to be sold out at, I don't know, Ohio State for the first 2 rounds?
No. Stores? No.
No. They're going to have the same crowd they always have. That's why the coverage of this is so warped. It's warped. What a financial boon for what? Financial boon for what? It's going to be the same attendance as they always get everywhere else, right? And then they'll go to the regional. Well, the 3 regionals will have the same attendance they normally get, and hers will be sold out. What if they lose? Uh-oh. I mean, because the Final Four will be sold out no matter what. It doesn't matter. It's always sold out. That's fine. But the other places are, it's like...
Yeah, the rest of it isn't going to be. Her bracket's going to be sold out.
Right. Like where she's playing, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be some common sense here that's added into it. Like, and this financial boon and the whole thing, guess what? The tournament is still going to lose a boatload of money. Because guess what? It was already losing a boatload of money, right? So they made up some of the deficit, but that's all they're doing right now with this.
But just sorry for the tangent. I want to shout out Clark because she passed Lynette Woodard for major college women's basketball scoring mark. So,
and can I say this about Pete Maravich?
Go for it.
There'll be a lot of talk about, and justifiably about, no 3-point line. A lot of talk about how he wasn't eligible as a freshman because no freshman were eligible. He played on the freshman team. Oh, by the way, he scored another 745 points on the freshman team. Over here in the back. Okay,
put up about 44 points a game or something crazy.
18 games. That's all he played. No, he played 17 games on the freshman team. He scored like 745 points. All true. I will point out, in fairness, though, that when they played non-conference games, like in the NIT and so forth, they played an integrated schedule. When they played in the SEC, though, did not. It's the 60s. The transition into integrated schedules in the SEC, are you kidding me? No. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, has not happened. So he played, 70, 69, 68, 67. So 66, 67 would have been his freshman year. Okay, what happened in 1966 down at Cole Fieldhouse in College Park?
What happened?
That was an all-white starting lineup at Kentucky. I believe they were referred, Adolph Rupp's team was referred to as the Runts, against the first ever all-black starting 5 at Texas Western, which is now Texas El Paso today. And Texas Western won. Okay? That was the spring before Pete Maravich entered school. Okay? My point is, where's Kentucky from? The SEC. Okay? The SEC is not an integrated league at that point. Now, they played non-conference games, and they absolutely, in non-conference games and in the NIT, played an integrated schedule. I'm just pointing out level of competition, things like that I think is an important point to make when you're discussing all this, because there are a lot of factors. No 3-point line, factor. Played 83 games, factor. Not eligible to play as a freshman, that's 17 games and 745 points, factor, right? So those are all factors in his favor, but this is also another factor about, okay, wait a minute. Like, so when we talk about Babe Ruth, okay, he's not out there against Satchel Paige.
He's out there against me.
Right. But Satchel Paige, for example, I mean, now Ruth played in integrated games because they did a lot of barnstorming in the offseason, so he faced Satchel Paige and so forth. I mean, just so people know, he did, but just not in the major leagues.
Not where the pressure's the highest, where everyone wants to see it, none of that.
Right.
But I just wanted to give Caitlin Clark some plaudits, and the fact that there was 2 triple doubles by Iowa players in the span of 24 hours is just really weird. Like, that doesn't happen in college basketball.
Right. I know.
So the fact that it did happen is one of those cooler things in the world.
Yeah.
So just wanted to shout that out. And you wanted to said you discuss money.
Yeah, we'll discuss money. I just want to make sure I've got the
facts right, got the numbers right.
I'm not talking about his freshman year.
And while you're doing that,
Yeah, on his freshman, because I'm pretty sure I'm pretty close in his freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
He
I
is.
wonder why.
and while you're doing that, I want to bring up a quick point before we get to money real fast. This news broke today in the soccer landscape, at least, that Paul Pogba has been banned for 4 years for a doping offense. And
disgraceful.
Well,
you know where Maravich was born, by the way, right?
Where was Maravich born?
Aliquippa. Western part of the state.
Okay. Well, he was born there. Pogba was born in France. And very quickly on Pogba, while you're getting some things up, I just want to discuss the idea of people getting in their own ways. Because there are so many athletes that, in Pogba's case, if you watched the 2018 World Cup run France went on, where they won the World Cup, of course, people remember Kylian Mbappe breaking onto the scene. Pogba had probably the best tournament we've ever seen a player have. Everything he did was perfect. He's a giant. He's one of the most technically gifted players of ever. And he's like 6'4", I think, 6'3", and could do things that were just unfair and inhuman. And he has now been banned. He started getting his ban back in 2023, and then it was confirmed by Italy's National Anti-Doping Tribunal in September that it was for testosterone, and then it was officially banned today for 4 years. And he has gotten in his own way throughout his entire career. He's had stints in places where, at Manchester United, for example, he went in there and was meant to be the guy who saves them and brings them back. He was the kid who was in their youth academy and then left on a free to Juventus, became a star, came back for a record fee, and then did nothing pretty much in his career at Manchester United. And he just constantly got in his own way for so many different things. And it was like, this is just, it's infuriating. And I think about him and the other players who are the what ifs, the guys who you can see the talent and you can just see just the raw, like, this dude is going to go somewhere.
Right.
And then they get in their own ways. Or in this case, they dope, if it's true. If it ends up coming out, which per the doping agency in Italy, it is true, it has happened, either doping or attitude problems. And it seems to be becoming a bigger issue today in sports. I don't get why that is. Like, I do to an extent with social media and the bigger presence players have and the power players have, like in the NBA. But even so many people are getting in their own ways in sports today compared to even a decade ago, where you see players like Pogba, or you see dozens of players in the NBA having problems, or in the NFL. And I'm just like, why? What are you doing? Like, you have a golden goose, but you're asking for like a gold-plated pyramid. It's not coming. And this is just another example of that. And it's infuriating, because I love to see the best players play, but we don't get to see that when they get in their own way, like Pogba does. Sorry for the quick rant. I should to get out some thoughts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, very nice.
Yes. Sorry. I wanted to get that out there into the universe.
I know. I feel better. Maravich, as a freshman, scored 828 points.
Jesus. Not bad.
So, over a 4-year span, you're not close.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But freshmen weren't eligible. So, like Kareem's numbers, Lou Alcindor's numbers out there.
Mm-hmm.
Look, he took like 37 shots a game.
Mm-hmm. But how dare Caitlin Clark take 25, Steve? How dare she?
Yeah. It's a different time. It's a different era. It's a different way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you either have the number or you don't. She's got the number. It's good. She'll pass him. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, when you're sitting there and like, well, what about Pete Maravich? Well, look it up on YouTube. That's not usually the best way to start. I mean, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So money. Let's talk money here.
So let's talk cash here.
And not the cash that I did not spend on caramel corn because they didn't accept $12 gift vouchers in Iowa. Not that cash.
Yeah, well,
You can see the joy in your face as I say all of these things.
you just,
I bring you joy. That's what I do.
Everything's about you.
It is. The whole world, Steve.
It's all about you. Dick and I had to hand you a tissue. I mean, come on, what's going on?
I was crying.
Like, overcome it.
It was heartbreaking, Steve.
Overcome it. I even offered you my ticket, too.
And it didn't do anything for getting the caramel corn.
I know that. So, money, college football playoff money. Now, again, they're trying to work all this out. So when it comes to the cash, in the old model, 80% of the college football playoff revenue went to the Power Five, 20% was allocated to the Group of Five. So according to the more recent data from the college football playoff, each of the Power Five conferences received $79.41 million, or a total of $400 million in the spring of 2023. The Group of Five shared $102.77. Notre Dame received a payout of $3.89. Okay. The other independents got $1.89. In other words, UConn's share, UMass's share. Everybody gets a share.
Yeah.
It's like people don't realize, like Penn State's share, bowl share, is the exact same as Indiana's. Right? Because that's how they split it up. Okay. The SEC and the Big Ten would like to earn of that 80%, or whatever it is, between 25 and 30%, the two combined. The ACC and the Big 12 would be next. They would get between 15 and 20%. That leaves somewhere between 6 to 10% for the other leagues and 1% for Notre Dame. Okay? They say the math isn't clean, which of course it isn't. Right? Some money needs to go to expenses and to places like the other, and then what do you do with UConn, which is the only other independent, because UMass is now going to go to the MAC.
Yeah.
By the way, Pat Flannery asked me the other day about Army. Army's going to the American, but only in football. Every other sport is staying in the Patriot, including basketball.
Interesting.
Okay. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey has made it clear the SEC has delivered 40% of the teams to the playoff and has been a primary revenue driver. Well, let's look around the room. Can anybody dispute that? No. You can attempt to, but no. They are unanimous in favor of eliminating the rule that requires unanimity to make changes to the playoff. Good. Right? Hey, Conference USA votes no. Well, it's too bad. Sorry. And that's one, right? That's a big one, because for a while people thought the Pac-12 was going to hold this up until they realized that hold on here, the at-large thing actually helps you.
Yes.
They also want to avoid a situation where the Pac-12 single-handedly postponed the move from 6-6 to 5-7 for the new 12-team format. Now remember, this format they're talking about would not go into play for 2 years.
It takes a little bit.
Well, that's when the new TV contract goes in. See, this is about the new TV contract. The old TV contract runs out in 2 years, so they're going to go 12 for the last 2 years. Okay? Which means you got the 5 and then the 7 at-larges. There will not be automatic bids. Those 7 spots do not have automatic bids tied to them. They're, quote, at-large. All right?
The best of the rest.
Now, in 26, they want to do it where the initial thought is 3-3, 2-2-1. You might as well just go to 16 at that point, made it 4-4-2.
You don't want 8-4 Syracuse getting into a bowl game, Steve? Why not?
No, they can go to a bowl game.
or into the tournament at least. That is.
No, I would like to see Syracuse in a bowl game. Absolutely. I'm sure the ReliaQuest Bowl is,
or the Camping World Bowl we won back in 2019.
Did anybody go?
Yes, many of my friends did. You seem just so happy. So they want to wait 2 years and then do it with the new deal kicking in, which again makes sense because at that point you change it up. And as you said, the 3-3-2-2-1 model would mean 2 ACC schools get in, which the joke stating an 8-4 Syracuse or a 7-5 Pitt.
Who?
Yeah.
Who? That's the problem. Who?
Mm-hmm. You'd have.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that doesn't. Okay, when you're sitting there, Penn State's playing this schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State this year. Let's just take this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they play at West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Tough opener. They play USC in the Coliseum. They play Ohio State here.
Mm-hmm.
They play Washington here. Okay, they play UCLA. Right now, UCLA is not a powerhouse, especially this year. They're probably a little bit off. Right? Plus, everybody else they play in the Big Ten. No offense, but in the ACC, you aren't playing that schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So Florida State would be the favorite going in, right?
Yeah.
Right? Just ask them; they'll tell you. Their act is starting to really wear thin. By the way. Florida State football schedule. So this is who they're now. Last year, remember they played LSU, but that was in Orlando. That was last year. So 2024 Florida State football schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, goody. Usually they play somebody out of the gate pretty good, but they're going to open with looks like. They play Georgia Tech to open. Then they play Boston College, Memphis, Cal, SMU, Clemson, Duke, Miami, North Carolina, Notre Dame. They've got that in South Bend. Charleston Southern, Be Still My Heart, and Florida. Really?
Mm-hmm.
See, this is where the additions come in. They are playing Cal and SMU. Penn State with the additions is playing USC, Washington, and UCLA. You want how many automatic bids?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Now, I think Clemson plays one out of the gate.
They always do.
Yeah, but I think Gary Stoken told me they may have the game.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just see. 2024. Can't wait to see the Clemson football schedule. I've always wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, went around their facility. It's not bad. Their facility is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I know they play South Carolina at the end. Schedule. Clemson. Now, again, we're just taking the top two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So they will open up. Yeah, I was right about with Gary. They're going to host a game. It's Georgia. It's going to be at the Dome. But then they play Appalachian State, NC State, Stanford, Florida State, big game, Wake Forest, Virginia, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt, the Citadel, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Really? I mean, they needed the Georgia game at the front.
Yes.
Which really helps. That does help. But again, we're going to additions. Well, they got Stanford. Okay. Really? Okay. That's an ACC game. Okay.
It is.
I mean, that's the difference. I mean, let's just take what's USC's football schedule. Let's just take them because I don't know what they're going to do. they're interesting. I'm not sure how good they are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're going to have to find out. I don't know. They open up with LSU in Las Vegas. Then they have Utah State. Then they're at Michigan. Then they have Wisconsin. Then they're at Minnesota. Then they host Penn State. I mean, excuse me. Okay, this is now becoming like you're already dusted Florida State schedule. You've already dusted them. Okay? Then they're at Maryland, Rutgers. Then they're at Washington. Then they have Nebraska. And then, of course, they go to the Rose Bowl, play UCLA. Oh, and by the way, they close with Notre Dame. You're telling me that these are on the same track? I did not pick Penn State's schedule. I picked USC's schedule. Okay? You're telling me that they're on the same track as Florida State and Clemson? And you want how many automatic bids? Okay, here's one for you. You get one. I'll concede 2 if we go to 16 and the Big Ten and the SEC get 4-4. I'll concede 2 then. 4-4, 2-2-1. Okay, with 3 at large. If it's
4-4-2-2-1.
If it's 16.
Oh, if it's 16, yes. I was like, wait, 14 would be 4-4-2-2-1 would mean there's one.
No. Yeah. No, if it's 16.
16, then yes.
Which you know they're going in that direction. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's inevitable. We discussed it a while ago. It's inevitable. It'll go from 12 to 14 and then to 16 to make the gradual jump and say, oh, it's worth adding 2 more schools. Look at this person who got left out. And then 2 years later, look, but this person got left out too. Let's add 2 more spots in just for numbers' sake. And again, at that point, it becomes a Sweet 16 bracket.
Well, then, but then it becomes problematic for ESPN.
Yes.
Because at 12, you can go that opening weekend, Friday night, December 20th, and a triple header on the 21st. Okay. Which then seamlessly goes into New Year's Day. I think they finally have chosen, I think, December 31st to play the 1.
Yeah.
And then the 3 straight games on New Year's Day, which is going to be a bonanza.
It's going to be college football's heaven.
Right. They will then play on...
I think the 10th?
No, they're not playing Saturday. It's going to be a semifinal on a Thursday and a semifinal on a Friday. So it's going to be... The first is going to be a Wednesday, so it's got to be 9-10. I think it's 9-10, but it's a Thursday, Friday. Right? And then the championship game's the 20th.
Yeah.
And that's how they're going to do it. It's just, again, what has happened is this. The 2 conferences that made the big move in terms of what they added to the table, Texas and Oklahoma were the 2 schools in that conference. If I'm going 3-3, 2-2-2-1, okay? I'm looking at the Big 12. You got Texas and Oklahoma. Now, somebody else like Oklahoma State or Iowa State may get in there, but it's a pretty good chance you're going to get 1. Okay? Pretty good chance. All right? And but now you're not getting any of those teams. You're not getting any. That's great. Iowa State's in. Campbell's done a nice job. Good. And the other school is Arizona. Okay. Hi there. What do we know about Arizona? Well, their coach is gone. He's at Washington.
Yes.
That part I know. Yeah.
What a time. And
I mean, again, that's what it comes down to. I mean, now, you're talking about the Big Ten and the SEC. That's 34 teams right there. 34 in a 1 through 18.
Yeah.
I mean, finishing 4th in the conference in a 1 through 18, pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, remember, if you are taking, let's go. Play fly.
Quick quick thing, real fast.
I will call her back after the show.
Quick question for you,
How do you spell your name?
Yes. Quick question for you.
I just try to help you out. But you see what my point is. Okay, so if you're talking 4-14 is what, 29%? Would be that. Okay, so 29%. If you take 4 out of 18, that's 22% from your conference to make up 29% of that. Okay, now I know it's an illness that I figured it out on the top of my head what the percentages were, and that drives,
how dare you?
That drives Dick nuts.
It does drive me crazy.
It drives Dick nuts. Like, he'll be sitting there like, what? You want to know why? Okay. Because when I was younger, don't give me that look like it's like
I'm listening. Okay. I'm paying attention.
Okay. When horse-drawn carriages brought us to school and I had to walk.
You just snowshoe uphill both ways.
Right. Because they didn't have cars.
No.
When I was younger, I did a lot of work for my dad in his machine shop. All right. High school and, off times in college. Well, everything is done on percentages, size. I did a lot of hole punch, things like that. I'd have to make templates, work from blueprints, and after a while it gets ingrained in your head what numbers happen to be. That's probably a reason why.
So that's a good reason why.
And it's also a mental illness.
It is mental illness. And you know what else is for me? Something I view as mental illness is putting too much stock in the combine.
Oh, my goodness. Come on. All right.
Because it starts today on the leap day. It starts today at 3 p.m. It runs through Sunday the 3rd.
So let me. Okay.
Here we go. I've been waiting for this the entire time we've been talking.
The combine.
Yes.
There is value in it.
Where is that value?
Well, it's one-stop shopping where you can get everybody together all at once. And there may be a core group I would like to at least do pre-interviews with, because eventually you're allowed to bring 30 to your facility where you really get a chance. Like, I want to know personality. I want to know, right? I'm not, where I can figure out for myself when we work them out, I can figure out what they can and can't process, okay? I've got so much video of everything. In
actual games.
Right. That tells me what you can and can't process. That's why that S2 test or whatever the heck it was for C.J. Stroud, I made fun of it last year because I said, excuse me, I've got hours of tape. It looks to me like he's processing just fine. I saw him twice in person. Seemed to process pretty well when I saw him. Okay? Does anybody use eyes anymore?
Al Davis did when he would see players run really fast.
Well, yeah, but, let's face it, they also made the big mistake on Jamarcus Russell, too.
Yes.
Okay? So it's not
one of the worst draft mistakes we've seen.
It's not like you cannot make a mistake. Like he threw the ball 70 yards. Well, that's just great. Yeah. But how much tape did they watch? I don't know.
And how much did they research the fact that he doesn't actually, study plays?
Right, but this is 20-plus years ago. It's a long time ago this happened. But you have so much tape now where you can see, okay, how long does Caleb Williams hold the ball? How quickly does he bail when the pressure gets to him? Okay, okay. What's his release like? I can time it out. Okay? I can get an all-22. I can look at, okay, well, he missed him. Nope, he hit the right guy. Right? I can put a whiteboard up there with him. Okay. Take me through, show me. Okay? What's your check down? What are you looking at? Okay. What are your calls at the line of scrimmage? All these things that you can talk to them about. Other than, we, as you know, they have a series of embarrassing questions that have come out over the years. That's because you put people in the room that absolutely have no idea how to interview. None. I don't know how you can have a multi-billion-dollar industry and then put people in a room that have no idea how to interview somebody. That's beyond me. But the 40s and things like that, Larry Fitzgerald ran a 4.63. The Ross kid ran 4.2, what, 4.22?
4.22.
Which one's in the Hall of Fame? What was Jerry Rice's time? I think Jerry Rice was around 4.6 as well, wasn't he?
471.
471. Jerry Rice.
The best wide receiver of all time.
Name me the plays where Larry Fitzgerald and Jerry Rice were caught from behind.
Mm-hmm.
Which plays were they caught from behind?
Mm-mm.
I never saw Jerry Rice caught from behind.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw Larry Fitzgerald caught from behind. Remember the Super Bowl the Steelers played against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals took the lead late on a Larry Fitzgerald catch?
Because he just ran down the field.
Which Steeler caught him?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, remember, they're in pads. I mean,
do you know what James Harrison ran, by the way? Talking about the Super Bowl?
James Harrison? Oh, that
Give me your guess.
His 40 time?
40 time.
I'm going to say 5'1".
4.85.
Really good.
But notice what happened. He got help blocking, but he outran most people.
Hey, good. No, really, good for him. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That is impressive. A man that size running 4.85 is impressive. It doesn't mean you can't turn in impressive times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was standing there the day that Micah Parsons ran out and ran 4.38.
Mm-hmm.
And Odafe Owe ran, I want to say 4.34. I mean, I was standing there when they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that blows me away when I see like a man that size do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is that Micah Parsons is a football player with that athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
Micah Parsons is a smart player.
Mm-hmm.
Micah Parsons knows how to play the game. He's got a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Odafe Owe, a little newer to the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great natural talent. Maybe not the know-how that Micah Parsons had, because Micah's been playing since he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it's important. It would be so important to me in running a front office where I go in and kind of like look at this and like some of this maybe confirms something.
Yeah.
Right? You're allowed to bring 30 people in to your facility. That's why we all knew, like last year, Sean Clifford, Green Bay was going to be the spot because they were the ones that invited him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the only quarterback they invited. Like, okay. Right. So there are certain tip-offs that happen like that. But this is another step for these people.
Mm-hmm.
It's how it's perceived by the public. Or how it's perceived by some people, not all, some people. The veterans who cover the combine, right, get it. They understand it, right? And look, there's a lot of people to go through. You don't know when you're going to find a Leighton Vander Esch, right? Who, when he's stayed away from injuries, has been a good, solid player, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know. But too much stock can be put on, well, he ran a 4.2. Okay, I got it. He's fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I expected him to be fast.
I think the one time I can remember a 40 time, like a 4.2, a low 4 number, helping someone and like confirming things in my head was Chris Johnson, where he ran, I think it was a 4.24.
I remember.
And he was drafted the first round by the Titans. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, he's actually fast. Yeah, we all saw he was fast, and everyone thought he was slow for some reason. It's like, no, that dude is lightning quick.
Right, you can overcome a perception. There's no question. You also can set yourself back on perception.
Yeah.
But when you have Jerry Rice and Mike Mamula, like Mamula was a combine king, and the Eagles drafted him in the first round, and he can't play football.
Who? Darius Hayward-Bay. Name a Raiders wide receiver draft pick.
Can I say something about Bay for a moment?
Yeah.
Right. While correct, I agree with you about like as a wide out and so forth. That guy hung in the league for years playing special teams. Mm-hmm. He hung in the league for years playing special teams, which meant he had to bust his backside playing special teams and keeping his career relevant. And I've always given him credit for that because he was able to do what he does and find some value where he could stay with a team. And sometimes that's really difficult to do. And he did it. And he did it to his credit. He was in the league at least 10 years, right?
He was in, I think, 10 or 11. He was there for a while.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of players, though, is the problem. Like, there's just so many guys you see get these crazy times, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, they ran a 4.26 or a 4.28. And it's like, oh my gosh, they need to be like the best pick in the draft. And that was the whole thing with Al Davis, is he notoriously selected guys who ran really freaking fast.
Right.
And they aren't good.
I have no idea if he ever knew what Cliff Branch's time was, but I never saw anybody catch Cliff Branch. That's why I was finally glad he got into the Hall of Fame. Like, he's not a Hall of Famer. I watched his games, like every game. To me, you want to know the tip-off is the guys I think should be in the Hall of Fame, right? When they're going against your team, you're like, oh, God, they got to. Because remember I was talking with Tim Kirchin?
Yeah.
I said, one of my gauges as to whether a guy should be thought about for the Hall of Fame in baseball is that my team is out there, and I do not want to face that dude on deck. That was my Gary Sheffield thing. I don't want to see Sheffield up. Let's get this guy out. Move on. Right? I mean, as a fan, like, oh, no, he's on deck. We got to avoid this dude at all costs.
And speaking of on deck, Steve, who's on deck for tomorrow? Who we got coming up tomorrow?
We
got some fun stuff coming up tomorrow, I believe.
Joe Lenardi. We will talk bracketology.
My favorite thing in the world.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Joe and I go back a long time, as you know. Yeah, so he's one of our guests tomorrow.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be a fun day tomorrow here on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.
Very nice.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.